Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel for our weekly recap series, where we're going to just be taking a look and discussing some interesting news stories in the sixth-scale world, whether it's news stories, and there are a couple this week, new releases, new announcements, and without a doubt, this week kind of cements that Hottoys is just killing it. They're killing it in terms of their announcements. They're killing it just in terms of quantity of releases. It's really... it's impressive to see, and at the same time, it's a little bit scary for your budget, if you haven't budgeted properly. And that's probably going to be one of the biggest themes that we're going to be discussing here too. It's going to come up a lot. But before I do that, again, busy week. But I'll just go into the disclaimer, and it's the usual. I don't work with any of these companies, right? I'm just a collector that buys these out of pocket, out of my own money, and I have to budget for them. But I have no links whatsoever to any of the resellers or any of the companies that are producing these figures. I don't get anything. I would disclose it if I did. Again, I just want to discuss interesting figures and interesting news stories that in particular relate to either licenses I like, companies that I think are doing interesting things, or figures that I want to buy, right? Or I want to discuss at least, even if I'm not going to be able to add them into my collection. And we're basically just discussing social media posts at this point, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Weibo. So that's pretty much it. So with that out of the way, news stories. We're going to start with Expo 6 first. And I know Expo 6 is not, the premier company right now. They're very niche. They're very focused on the Star Trek licenses, which not popular, or not as popular when you look at Star Wars, you look at Marvel, even DC at this point. But I like them. I like the licenses. I like Star Trek, both old and actually new. So it's a company I've been keeping an eye on, and I've been picking up a lot of their figures. So they had an event in China where they were able to showcase some of their upcoming releases. Not really anything new. I think the biggest new figure we saw was Empress Georgiou from Star Trek Discovery, played by Michelle Yeoh. That is a figure I've been waiting for a while, and it's nice to see that it has improved. I don't think it's still quite there, but it's definitely, the sculpt is, with Expo 6, it's the sculpts, right? That's where things happen, right? The uniforms, the accessories, they're always top notch. It's the sculpt where you get either a hit or a miss. So hopefully they can improve on that one a little bit more, because she was a great character and just an impressive looking figure, potentially overall. And it's nice to see that they haven't really ended the Discovery line. Then we got Strange New Worlds, right? Captain Pike and his crew. And actually, the nice thing there is there's already kind of a visible improvement from the Vegas convention that they had. Or at least to me, it seems like those figures have improved a little bit. Then we got to see Geordi, we got to see Picard from TNG, and we got to see updated Picard Season 3 figures. They all look really good and pretty impressive. And of course, then you've got Voyager, right? And they had B'Elanna Torres, and I think Neelix was there. The only thing that comes out of this is basically Expo 6 seems to be really putting a lot of effort into Picard Season 3. As well they should. That was an amazing season of television. Even if you don't watch Star Trek, that was just really, really good sci-fi. At least I thought so. And they seem to also be putting a lot of effort into that Next Generation line, and the Wrath of Khan, which has that classic Kirk and Spock, look with the red uniform. So those are very iconic figures, and they do seem to be focusing on those and putting a lot of effort into them. Voyager just seems to be, unfortunately, the poor cousin. I have a lot of the figures. I have most of them, and it just seems like they got the short end of the stick, unfortunately. But I'll still pick them up. I want to complete that crew, and then I'll be interested to see what's going on with these. Now, the next news story is Inart. Now, I had issues with Inart when they came out, right? I wasn't sure if they were going to deliver. There was a lot of promise there coming out. It's nice to see that it looks like they are delivering, right? The Joker, even with the issues, seems to be a really solid figure that looks really good. The Gandalf, we've only seen YouTubers with the figure. It hasn't really started shipping yet. That looks pretty good. And the new Pennywise, Not that I'm a horror fan, but you can appreciate the beauty of the figure, right? And the detail work that went in to the sculpts and the accessories. So I think so far Inart is doing what they need to do, at least from a production standpoint, in giving us good figures, right? My experience, again, is going to be that Harry Potter license. So one of the things I wanted to discuss first was they basically showed updates to the Batman figure, which is in production, and they're apparently fixing up the cape. It looks phenomenal. I mean, when the original Bruce Wayne was showcased, I thought it looked a little funny. This looks pretty impressive. And actually, it's kind of nice to see that the sculpted hair version, I think, might look just as good as the rooted. Without having them in hand, you're just judging off a picture, but they look pretty good, which I think is a good effort by Inart at this point. And then, of course, Inart did a story, right, which was kind of just a recap of where they are, mentioning that the Gandalf and the Pennywise are going to be shipping, that they're working on the Batman release and the Aragorn. And then the interesting tidbits were particularly in regard to the Dune figure, Paul Atreides. And now I have the Hottoys one. It was okay, right? It wasn't the best figure of the year. It's not going to be in that running, but it was decent. The Paul Atreides that Inart showcased at their convention looked incredible, and I'd be tempted to pick that up, but it looks like the license holder is making them go back and make some changes, which it's pretty insane considering how good that looked. And obviously Hottoys already got theirs approved, and I have it on pre-order, so just interesting from a licensing perspective, but it looks like there's more work to be done before that figure even makes it to the pre-order phase. I'll be tempted to see what it looks like once it goes up. And then the other one is, of course, they talked about Harry Potter and how they already have plans for that. I think Inart's already doing a great job with the figures, right? They're working on production and speeding up that production and getting those figures to us collectors, which is a good thing, right? That's what they need to do. This batch system is kind of a little iffy. It's probably the biggest negative they have right now. If they can improve on that, I think it's going to be a home run for them. And then the other thing I always mention with them is licenses, right? I think the Lord of the Rings license in particular, they're doing something that, sure, you've got other companies that have tackled it, but not recently and not as well, or maybe not as in-depth recently, right? So they've got an opening there. And Harry Potter, Star Ace was doing them. Star Ace, right? So I think they've got a great opening there as well, with an IP that has potential to give them a lot of different figure opportunities. So I think if they can grab some licenses like that kind of set them apart from Hottoys and from other companies, they can really start paving their own path. And I think there's a lot of possibility there, especially with what Inart is doing and what they've been doing so far. So just a quick news update for them. Now the other one is more of a what if, right? I'm just curious. I'm not picking up Hottoys Cos Babies, right? They're not my, I don't collect those at all. I'm 6th-scale and 6th-scale only. But, we always see Hottoys Cos Babies as kind of a potential tease of what's to come in 6th-scale. And they're showing Wednesday Addams from I hope I get this right, I think it's the Netflix miniseries. I watched it a while ago with my family. It was actually surprisingly good, right? I thought, it's the Addams Family. It's another take on that. I thought the show was actually pretty endearing, pretty funny, and just really interesting. So, does this mean that there's a Wednesday Addams potentially coming our way? It's a weird figure if it does, but we've seen Hottoys do some strange things too, right? They did Maleficent from Disney. They did Belle from Beauty and the Beast. I didn't pick any of those up, right? Not movies that I necessarily felt like I needed something, but I might be tempted if they do a Wednesday Addams. She was a really great character in that show, and it was something that I think I had much more of a positive experience than I expected to. It was definitely a pleasant surprise. So could that be something incoming, or is it just a Cos Baby? Who knows, but just something I thought about when I saw the pictures. Now, as far as announcements, Sabine Wren, we already talked about. I'll put a link in the video just to that. I'm not going to bore you with that. The only update on that is price, $271. Not bad. I thought it was going to be closer to the $300 mark, just because that's what figures are kind of hitting at this point. So pretty decent overall, I think. And for me, that was a day one pre-order. I'm pretty much sold on how I'm going to collect Star Wars going forward. So she definitely fits that mold. And with the other teases from Ahsoka, the new outfit, that shouldn't hopefully be too much of a spoiler. But with all of that, I think this is just the first of many figures we're going to be getting from that show. And I'm going to be looking to pick up probably a number of them if they do release them. So the next figure that got announced that I also ordered was Picard. Jean-Luc Picard, retired Admiral from Picard Season 3. Again, it's Exo 6. I know a lot of people probably, if you want to fast forward through this, you go for it. I like Star Trek. I like modern Trek too. I know a lot of people, it's either you like the original and don't like, and by the original I mean the original 4 shows, right? Enterprise, which did catch a lot of flack when it was out, but right, the original series, Next Generation, Voyager, and Deep Space Nine, right? Those were kind of the shows people tend to remember fondly, including myself. But I have been enjoying modern Trek, Strange New Worlds, Discovery. Picard Season 3, though, I can't say enough good things about that. Even if you're not a Star Trek fan, my wife isn't a Star Trek fan. I forced her to watch Marvel. I forced her to watch Star Wars, right? She's been great about it. Star Trek is kind of where she drew the line, just not her thing. But we watched Picard Season 3 and she was hooked. She didn't even know a lot of the backstory and she was still hooked. That's how good that show was. So for me to get a Picard from Season 3, I know some people are going to be like, it's old. It's like old indie, right? Who wanted him? But I did, right? I think I got the Locutus of Borg. I'm going to pick up the TNG Picard when they do that. And it's going to be nice to have kind of that evolution of the character as well, right? I'm big on that, kind of seeing the progression of characters through figure form. So it's a very basic figure, right? Comes with a pistol and comes with a bottle of wine from his vineyard. I don't know what else could have been included. And the cost, $190, not cheap, but not super expensive. And I think the sculpt actually looks pretty good. And the tailoring on the clothing is always top notch with Exo 6. So for me, a figure I ordered, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing what they do with the line. Right now they've got 2 other figures teased, Worf and I think it's Vatic, the villain, or one of the villains. I'm really hoping they progress to some of the other members of the crew because it would be great to get those as well, especially with the Next Generation crew coming in to have kind of that, those multiple versions of the characters. Now, that was it actually for announcements. I don't think there was anything else that I wanted to touch base on. But then we got to talk releases, which is where the big bulk of things really comes in this week. So, we started off with Hottoys Robocop. That was a figure we saw show up at Secret Base. Maybe it was 1 or 2 weeks ago, and for some reason it went radio silent, right? They kind of, there was just some rumors something happened with the figure, but they released it finally. I've heard the issues. I personally don't have it on order, right? I don't have it on order, not because it's not a great figure, right? And that's going to be a lot of the story on these releases. They're great figures. I thought the Robocop was pretty impressive. I thought it looked like a nice updated version of that Robocop 3 one. And there are a lot of people that have already done videos and comparison videos to that. So check them out, right? I just think it's a pretty great looking figure. It's die-cast, it's Robocop, and I like that even though it's from Robocop 3, they gave him the faceplates, the Peter Weller faceplates, so you could essentially recreate the look from the original 2 movies. Now, as far as the color on the armor, or on the chassis, I know some people seem to be complaining that it doesn't match the color from the prototype. And look, I think it's fair. If that was something that you really gravitated towards and appealed to you from the figure, I think you're completely entitled in being disappointed. For me, the figure just looks great. It looks like it turned out amazingly well. The detail work on the accessories, the detail work on the figure, everything is just really good. And if I had the budget, I would pick it up. And that's pretty much the story, right? I don't have the budget. I'm kind of tied up in a lot of other properties, and I've got to watch myself. And look, Hottoys, with all the releases they've got coming, And the quick turnaround from release in Hong Kong to release at Sideshow, where I have a lot of my pre-orders, I just have to be careful, right? I can't just order everything I want. And I say that all the time, right? Because I'm always commenting on Star Wars figures that look great that I just can't buy. So I think Hottoys Robocop turned out really well. And I'm really looking forward to seeing it in hand with other people. And I'm going to live kind of vicariously through those experiences. But so far, overall good. Next release, also from Hottoys, Peacemaker. Peacemaker turned out phenomenal, right? I think it's John Cena through and through, right? With that crazy, wacky helmet. It's another one that I passed on. I have issues with DC overall, right? And you might say, maybe some of you are going to say, oh, another Snyder fanboy. But I liked what Zack Snyder was doing with that series, right? I loved Man of Steel. I thought Man of Steel was great. I loved Batman vs. Superman. I remember watching that and thinking, I don't get the hate, right? Everybody was hating on it. Sure, were there some things, yeah, was Doomsday introduced too early? That should have been its own movie, right? And then you saw the director's cut of that, and that was just like, what is Warner Brothers doing, right? There was a really, really amazing movie there that even the haters seemed to like, that all of a sudden was just torn apart by Warner Brothers with some mandate to cut things. So that director's cut, amazing, right? And then if you continue on, even the Suicide Squad, the David Ayer one, that was pretty entertaining. Was it the best? Absolutely not. But it was pretty entertaining. Everything was going well, and then Justice League hit, where they forced this 2-hour runtime. No. That was kind of where I stopped with, and it's the first time I've actually had kind of that reaction with DC. I just didn't like that at that point. Aquaman, visually pretty appealing, but I didn't think it was as good as people made it out to be, right? So anyway, I had issues. I kind of stopped collecting DC for a while, and now I've got certain pieces coming. I've got the Black Adam on order. I've got the Supergirl, the old Michael Keaton, right? Because I've got, again, a vision of what I want that DC shelf to look like, and how I'm going to populate it. Peacemaker, as entertaining as he was in his movies, just wouldn't fit in with that, right? And again, you have to curate your collection, and you have to budget, right? Doesn't mean it didn't turn out great. It looks phenomenal, right? All the accessories are there. The helmet, the eagle, right? Eagly. I mean, if I was just picking up everything, again, if budget were no issue, I would pick him up. He looks that good, right? But I had to pass on him. Plus, maybe I wouldn't have picked him up because he killed, spoilers, he killed Rick Flag, and that pissed me off as well. I get that it's a Suicide Squad, but yeah, it was fun, but not for me. But you can't deny that this is an amazing looking figure. So if you are picking him up, I don't think you'll be disappointed. Now, continuing on with Hottoys releases, Hottoys Electra. Another home run from Hottoys based on the promo pics. It just looks incredible, looks amazing, looks like the likeness, the sculpt has to be one of the best sculpts I've seen this year. And just the entire figure pops, right, with the yellow lightning effects. I don't know that there's anything negative to say about that. Again, I don't have it in hand, but hopefully I'll have it soon. But I think it's another figure that turned out great. And that Spider-Man No Way Home line is quickly turning into one of the best lines I think Hot Toys has produced in a long time, right? I think, unless you're a Mandalorian fan, of course, even that one, they went in depth and they produced a ton of amazing figures. So they're really taking care of this Spider-Man IP and this Spider-Man license. So great figures overall, and they're shipping really quickly. Kate Bishop just dropped, and I just got my notification from Sideshow that she's going to be charging soon. I've had Doc Ock on payment plan, and they had pushed him back to November for my final. Hopefully they'll get some stock in and I'll be able to get him sooner. If not, I'll have to wait, I guess, 2 months. But they seem to be really getting their stock in quickly, which is great for me. So no need to go necessarily rushing out to overseas resellers to pick them up. So that was it, right? That was pretty much the week. a lot of interesting developments from Inart. I think Inart is establishing themselves, and they're doing again what they need to do. And then Hottoys is just the behemoth that it continues to be, right? It's just they're releasing pre-orders, and they're really speeding up production. And maybe with few issues here and there, their figures are turning out pretty impressive. So I think kudos to Hottoys for being able to keep that tempo and increase it. I mean, you're getting 2 to 3 releases per week at this point. I mean, on a light week, which normally wouldn't have been, you get 1. So they're going through their log. So I think Q4, there are a lot of figures that are pending. I think they're going to hit their targets, and I think we as collectors, budget again, right, has to come in. I don't cancel my figures. I usually budget in advance. There are very rare occurrences when I cancel because I don't want to lose those NRDs, right? So there's a lot incoming from Hottoys, and it's just, as collectors, we just have to be ready. So listen, that was a quick look at this week's 6-scale news. A lot of interesting little things, and hopefully developments for that we'll continue to discuss as the weeks go by. And listen, Ahsoka is still going, and then Loki season 2 is going to start in October. So I'm sure Hottoys is going to hit us with something from that show as well. So that was it. That was a quick, again, recap of this week's 6-scale news. Let me know your thoughts on any of these, or if there's anything that I missed that you think might be interesting. And as always, just thanks for watching. And if you're enjoying the content at all, please consider liking and commenting and subscribing. And we'll touch base on the next video.